She was a single mom, a fearless journalist, and a woman known for exposing corruption. But none of that mattered the day a crooked cop decided to make her his target. What started as a routine stop in front of her son spiraled into a nightmare that threatened to destroy everything she'd built. With her name dragged through the mud and a planted bag of drugs threatening her freedom, Cassandra Harris found herself trapped in the very system she'd spent years trying to hold accountable. But when the truth begins to ripple through the city, one question remains. How far will a mother go to protect her son and clear her name when no one in power wants to listen? Cassandra Harris didn't trust easy smiles, especially not from people in uniform. She'd seen too many lives shattered behind that polished grin, too many stories buried beneath badge numbers and carefully worded statements. And yet, as she glanced in her rearview mirror and caught the flashing lights behind her, her stomach still dropped like a stone in water. "Elijah," she said calmly, her voice steady, "put your seatbelt back on and sit tight, okay, baby?" Her 6-year-old son, feet dangling from the booster seat and sticky fingers clutching a half-eaten bag of gummy worms, blinked up at her. "Are we in trouble?" "No," she smiled tightly. "We're fine, just a quick check." The patrol car slid in behind her Toyota like a predator, getting comfortable before the pounce. She parked just outside the tiny corner store on Lakewood Avenue, engine still running. She had only stopped for 5 minutes. Juice and snacks. A normal day. But normal didn't mean safe. Cassandra glanced down at her phone. No calls, no texts. Just the time. 5:47 p.m. Rush hour, daylight, people around. Still her instinct screamed. The officer stepped out of his cruiser. She knew that walk. She'd written about it, investigated it, exposed it. It was the walk of a man who had already decided you were guilty. Officer Darren McLean adjusted his belt, straightened his shoulders, and approached the driver's side window with slow, deliberate steps. His eyes scanned the inside of the car, landing first on Elijah, then on her. His mouth twitched. "Ma'am," he said, tapping the glass once with a gloved finger. She rolled it down halfway. "Evening, officer. Something wrong?" McLean's smile didn't reach his eyes. "License and registration, and I need you to step out of the vehicle." Cassandra blinked. "Excuse me? What's the reason for the stop?" "Window tint's too dark," he replied, already reaching for the door handle. "It's factory standard," she said. "The same tint that passed inspection last." "I said out of the car, ma'am." His hand moved toward his radio. Cassandra glanced at Elijah. His gummy worms had fallen. His wide brown eyes locked on hers, fear starting to rise like steam off a kettle. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'm cooperating." She stepped out slowly, careful not to make sudden moves. She kept her hands visible, her voice even. "I'm not resisting. Just asking, what's this about?" McLean didn't answer. He walked around the car, eyes narrowed, scanning like a hawk. He called something into his radio she couldn't hear. Then he popped the trunk. "What the hell are you doing?" she asked. "Man, please step back." "You don't have a warrant." "Probable cause," he muttered. "Smelled something. Could be marijuana." "Liar," she said flatly. He looked at her then. Really looked at her. And that was when she knew. This wasn't about her windows, or a smell, or the time of day. This was about her, Cassandra Harris, the journalist who exposed the city's redistricting scandal, the reporter who wrote the story that got a sergeant suspended without pay, the woman who had called out systemic bias in the department on local radio just 2 weeks ago. She was on someone's list, and she'd just been bumped to the top. "Step away from the vehicle," McLean said again. She did. He crouched low behind the car. She heard movement, then silence. And then his voice, loud and clear, booming for the benefit of his body cam and anyone nearby. "Ma'am, what is this?" She turned, heart hammering. He was holding a small plastic bag between his thumb and forefinger. White powder. "You're kidding," she whispered. "You're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute." "You planted that," she said, not yelling, not crying, just stating it, a flat, impossible truth. McLean's expression didn't change. Behind him, Elijah was screaming, "Mummy! Mummy!" A second patrol car pulled up, sirens now. 2 more officers got out. One of them moved to comfort Elijah. He jerked away, terrified. Cassandra turned back to McLean. "You're making a mistake," she said. "No, ma'am," he said, cuffing her hands behind her back. "You did." They took her mugshot at 7:12 p.m. She hadn't cried. Not when they pulled Elijah from her arms. Not when they told her she'd be held without bail. Not when they laughed after reading her Miranda rights like it was just another script. But when they took her into holding and slammed the door behind her, she sat on the metal bench and stared at the wall. Blank, cold, loud. Then she laughed. One dry breath of air. Then another. And brain, because she knew what this was. This wasn't a random stop. This wasn't a rogue officer on a bad day. This was retribution. And if they thought this was the end of her story, they had no idea who she really was. By the time the city found out the truth, someone was going to regret ever pulling her over. She didn't know when. She didn't know how. But she knew herself. And she had something McLean would never understand. A reason to fight. And a son to get back to. She leaned her head against the wall. Let them play their game. The cell was cold and smelled like bleach, metal, and panic. Cassandra sat upright on the steel bench, back pressed to the wall, knees still tense like she hadn't given herself permission to fully rest. The cuffs were gone now, replaced with an ache in her wrists where the metal had pressed too tight. She didn't speak. She didn't ask for water. She didn't ask for a phone call. Not yet. She wasn't Cassandra Harris, the mother, right now. She wasn't Cassandra Harris, the journalist. She wasn't Cassandra Harris, the woman who kept her cool in front of cameras and city councilmen and corrupt real estate developers. She was the black woman behind bars, again. Except this time, she hadn't written the headline. "Ma'am?" A voice echoed from outside the bars. A young female officer, light brown skin, nervous, probably new. Cassandra didn't look up. "You have a visitor," the officer said. "Already?" Cassandra's voice came out low, nearly dry. "They said it's your editor, Sandra Fields." She exhaled slowly. "Let her in." The officer hesitated. "She's waiting in interview room C. You'll be escorted." "Of course," Cassandra murmured. "Wouldn't want me walking freely, would you?" The hallway to the interview room buzzed with fluorescent lights and murmurs. Officers didn't look at her directly. They didn't need to. She could feel the stares press into her like thumbtacks. Cassandra was already seated on the opposite side of the scratched-up metal table, her reading glasses pushed high on her head, her lips pressed tight. The woman had been Cassandra's boss for 5 years, and her unofficial mentor for longer. She didn't do small talk in moments like this. "You look like hell," Sandra said. "Thanks, so do you," Cassandra replied. Sandra didn't smile. "This is serious, Cass. They're booking you for felony possession with intent." "People who intend to do what? Pick my kid up from daycare?" she said dryly. "Don't joke," Sandra snapped. "They're not playing around. Officer McLean filed the arrest report within 20 minutes of bringing you in. Said he had cause to search your car due to suspicious behavior, and you were visibly nervous." Cassandra leaned back. "Nervous?" "Right. You know what's funny? When you're black, everything you do is suspicious. Blink twice and suddenly you're dangerous. Sandra set a thick manila folder on the table and slid it over. I pulled everything we had on him from our research bank. It's not much. Couple mentions and community complaints, mostly traffic stops. Nothing stuck. Because nobody listens until somebody bleeds, Cassandra said. Or until the wrong person gets accused. Meaning? Sandra leaned forward. Meaning you're not a name they can bury quietly. You're not some woman in a hoodie who can't get airtime. You're Cassandra Harris, byline in the Fremont Times every Sunday. They might have known who you were, or maybe they didn't. But now they're gonna wish they checked twice. A buzzer sounded and the door opened again. Time's up, the officer said from the doorway. Cassandra stood. Tell Elijah I'm okay. Don't let him see the news, not yet. I already talked to his aunt. He's with her tonight. Good. Cass, Sandra said quietly before she left. Do you want me to reach out to Malik Johnson? Cassandra hesitated. Yeah, she said finally. Tell him to bring every receipt we ever printed on those badge-heavy clowns. Back in her cell, Cassandra didn't sleep. Her mind ticked through everything, the timing, the location, McLean's wording, the exact placement of the so-called evidence. She replayed the sound of the plastic bag in his hand like it was an audio file she could scrub back and analyze. What bothered her wasn't just the lie. It was how easy it was. Too easy. There were protocols. Even crooked cops usually covered themselves better than that. But this felt rushed, sloppy. Which meant it wasn't just about control. It was personal. The next morning, her arraignment came and went with cold precision. No bail, pending further investigation, the judge had said. Her public defender barely made eye contact. And yet, someone was watching. At noon, an officer came to escort her again, this time to a private holding room. You've got legal counsel, he muttered, unlocking the door. Some hotshot from downtown. Cassandra raised an eyebrow. Malik Johnson stood waiting by the table, suit crisp, eyes already scanning a notepad full of scribbled notes. Cassandra Harris, he said, not sitting. They really did it? They really did. He closed the folder in his hand. You know they're trying to railroad this through fast, right? Push for a plea before anyone makes noise. I'm not pleading to a damn thing. Didn't think you would. Then why are you here? Because if they want war, he said quietly, you need a general. She almost laughed. Almost. But his face stayed firm. No showboating, no false bravado, just fire. I already sent a records request to Internal Affairs, Malik continued, not just on McLean but on his entire division. Plus, I flagged your arrest video for immediate review. If there's any body cam footage, I'll find it. I'll delete it. Not if we move faster. Cassandra looked him over. He was young, mid-30s maybe, clean-cut. The kind of man who had likely been called articulate one too many times by judges who couldn't remember his name. You're serious about this? She asked. You don't remember me, do you? She squinted. Should I? I was 15, he said, when you wrote the story about Anthony Riggins, my cousin, shot during a wellness check. Her breath caught. That piece was the first time our family felt like the truth got printed. She stared at him, something softening in her chest. I owe you, he said, and now we're going to make sure the city owes you. The door opened again. Session over. But the fire had already been lit. That afternoon, the Fremont Times ran a short editorial. A journalist is behind bars tonight, not because of a crime, but because of what she knows. We urge the Fremont Police Department to release all footage, reports, and evidence. Transparency is not optional when justice is at stake. They didn't name her, but the city already knew. By sunset, Cassandra's face was trending on social media. Not the mugshot, The author photo from her last Sunday feature. The one with her holding Elijah in her lap, her arm wrapped around him, her pen tucked behind her ear. Someone tweeted it with the caption, "They messed with the wrong mother." And in the shadows of the city that had tried to silence her, people started to whisper. What if she's telling the truth? Well, what if this wasn't a routine stop? What if this was a setup? The phone call came at 7:04 p.m. Cassandra sat in her small holding cell, the harsh lights flickering above her as she watched the clock tick on the wall. The usual disorienting hum of the fluorescent bulbs was only drowned out by her own heartbeat. It was the sound of waiting, of uncertainty. Her head snapped toward the sound of the phone ringing. Officer Daniels, the one who had escorted her to the holding room earlier that day, glanced at the receiver and then to her. "It's for you," he muttered, tossing the receiver onto the desk but not looking her way. Cassandra's heart skipped as she reached for the receiver, her voice low and steady. "Hello? Cass, it's Sandra." Her editor's voice broke through the static, offering the briefest relief Cassandra had felt in hours. "Sandra," she breathed, pushing back the rush of emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "How's Elijah?" "He's fine. I spoke to his aunt. He's handling it better than we thought. But we've got a bigger problem." Sandra's tone was heavy, urgent. "McLean's arrest report was filed with your name, and the charges, intent to distribute. Everything's already moving fast. I've got a legal team, but this is bigger than what we expected." "I'm not guilty," Cassandra snapped. She'd said it 100 times already, but it felt like she needed to hear it again. "This is a setup. I know it. You know it." "I know, but you're not the only one who thinks so." Sandra paused, a soft click of the line coming through. "I'm on my way to see Malik." "Malik Johnson, the activist lawyer?" "That's the one. We're digging deeper, Cass. We're going to bring in some people who know McLean's history, make sure this isn't swept under the rug. But this could get ugly fast." Cassandra clenched her fists, her nails digging into the palms of her hands. "I need to know what he's done before. How many times has he crossed the line? We're digging through it now. The city's pushing hard for this case to stick, but we're pushing harder. We're not backing down." "Good," Cassandra muttered, her mind still spinning with the events of the day. She could still see McLean's cold stare, his smug face as he read the charges, as if he knew he had her cornered. "What about the body cam footage? Anything yet?" Sandra's voice dropped, laced with frustration. "Not a damn thing. They're either hiding it or it doesn't exist." "They'll find it," Cassandra said, her confidence returning in full force. "They won't get away with it." "I'll call you later with updates. Stay strong. We're coming for them." The call ended, leaving a deep silence in the room that seemed to press down on Cassandra's chest. She stared at the phone for a moment, the weight of everything hanging in the balance. The door to the holding room opened with a creak, and Officer Daniels stepped inside again, his expression neutral. "Your lawyer's here." Malik Johnson stood in the doorway, his tall figure filling the frame. He wore a crisp suit and had an air of quiet determination. He wasn't the type to waste words or gestures. He had the calm confidence of someone who didn't need to prove himself to anyone. "Cassandra," he said, offering a sharp nod. "Malik," she replied, her heart skipping again, but this time with the smallest glimmer of hope. "You doing okay?" he asked, though the question was more a formality than genuine curiosity. They both knew the answer. "I'm fine," Cassandra said, forcing a smile. "I just need this nightmare to end." "Well, it's gonna take more than just wishing, but I think we can do it." Malik glanced at the officer standing by the door, his eyes narrowing slightly. "If you could leave us for a minute?" Officer Daniels didn't argue. With a final glance at Cassandra, he left, closing the door behind him. Malik sat across from her, dropping a thick file on the table between them. He opened it slowly, his eyes scanning the contents. He didn't speak right away. "So," Cassandra began, breaking the silence, What's the latest? I've been in contact with a few people from your neighborhood, Malik said, flipping through the pages. I also reached out to some sources within the department. The chatter's starting to pick up about McLean's track record. He's not clean, Cass. Not even close. Cassandra leaned forward, her pulse picking up. Tell me everything. Malik's fingers paused on a page and he looked up at her. McLean's been named in several complaints for excessive force, harassment, and false arrests. Nothing ever stuck. Too many internal investigations, too many coincidences. But the real kicker? He was involved in the wrongful arrest of a journalist 2 years ago, named Raina Scott. She went public with it, but the department buried it, just like they'll try to bury your case. I knew it, Cassandra muttered under her breath. I knew it wasn't random. Malik continued. He's been on the force for over a decade, always flying under the radar, getting his promotions. But people are starting to talk now. They're starting to take notice, Cass. You're not the first woman he's targeted. And this time, you're not going down alone. Cassandra's stomach churned. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, Malik said firmly. But the good news is they underestimated you. They underestimated the kind of person you are and the kind of support you've got behind you. She leaned back, her thoughts racing. Sandra's working on getting everything we can from internal affairs. She's already called in favors. She's got eyes on the footage. But if McLean's covering his tracks, he's going to make this disappear faster than we can blink. We've got to move faster, Malik said. And harder. Cassandra met his gaze. What's the plan? First, we file a motion for discovery on all the records related to your arrest. We'll subpoena body cam footage, radio transcripts, everything we can. I'll also need to contact Raina Scott and get her testimony on the record. She may be the key to connecting all of this. Cassandra's mind raced as she processed his words. She could see it now, a strategy forming, one that could take down McLean's entire narrative. If they pushed hard enough, if they got the right people talking, this could unravel quickly. But she couldn't let herself be distracted by hope. Not yet. She had to stay focused. She had to stay ahead. Malik, what's your gut telling you? She asked. Can we win this? He didn't hesitate. We're going to make them pay for what they've done. It won't be easy. It'll get ugly. But we're going to hit them with everything we've got. Cassandra felt a surge of determination rise inside her. It wasn't the same as before. The unshakable certainty that justice would prevail. This time, it was a sharp, jagged resolve. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for everyone McLean had ever hurt. For the truth. For her son. And no matter how long it took, she would fight until the last breath. I'm ready, she said quietly. The morning after the editorial ran, Cassandra's name was plastered across every news outlet in the city, and it wasn't the kind of coverage anyone would wish for. Her mugshot, the one taken with her hair unkempt and her face devoid of any emotion, was everywhere. Every station ran the same headline, "Journalist arrested for drug possession." The city was buzzing with noise, every corner filled with whispers of her arrest. By noon, the tension in the air had thickened. The community, divided, reacted. On one side, there were the voices of those who always knew the system was broken, who had seen the injustice firsthand and had long stopped expecting anything to change. On the other side were the voices of people who didn't want to believe it, those who still clung to the idea that law enforcement was something to be trusted. And then there was the silence from the people in power, the ones who could do something about this, but chose not to. Cassandra sat in the holding cell, staring at the cold walls around her. She had been there for hours now, alone with only her thoughts for company. The city, once bustling with life and opportunity, had felt so far away. The injustice was too heavy to ignore. She had seen it before, familiar faces in her stories. People who had been caught in the system's grip, who had fought to survive only to be crushed under its weight. This was her fight now. Malik had promised that they were working on it, working the phones, pulling in resources, pushing for everything that could help, and Sandra, ever the bulldog, had done what she could. The team she had reached out to, those reporters with nothing left to lose, were digging deep into McLean's past, going through old police records, speaking to witnesses. It was becoming a war of attrition. Every lead they could find, every person who might have a scrap of information would bring them one step closer to the truth. But the truth wasn't going to be enough this time. Cassandra knew it. She needed more than the truth. She needed an ally. She needed someone with power, someone who could break the silence. The door to the holding room opened with a sharp clang, and Officer Daniels stepped in. He didn't look at her, his face unreadable. "Visitor," he muttered, stepping aside. Cassandra's gaze shifted toward the door. She hadn't been expecting anyone, and yet here they were. A tall figure stepped into the room. She didn't need to ask who it was. The silhouette alone was enough to tell her. "Chief Ronald Tate," she said flatly. The man wasn't what she had expected. Chief Tate was tall, broad-shouldered, and middle-aged. He wore a tailored suit that didn't seem to fit the kind of uniformed authority she was used to seeing. His eyes were sharp, but there was something guarded about them, a defensive air that made her wonder whether he was here to clean up the mess or to bury it further. He didn't sit. Instead, he stood there for a moment, his gaze fixed on her. Cassandra didn't flinch. She had been in situations like this before. Interviews with powerful men who thought their wealth and status could bend the world to their will. But Cassandra wasn't here to play their game. "Ms. Harris," he said, with a hint of formality in his tone, "I'm sure you're aware of the gravity of your situation." "Really?" Cassandra said, her voice low but cutting. "Is that why I'm sitting in a cell with no charge, no evidence, and no explanation?" "I'm not here to argue semantics," Tate said, his voice tightening slightly. "I'm here to make sure that things don't get out of hand. Your arrest has caused a stir." "You think?" she shot back, leaning forward. "Your officer planted drugs in my car, and I'm the one causing the stir?" Tate sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "Look, I'm not here to defend McLean. You're right. There are issues here that need to be addressed. But you've got to understand. Your presence in this department, your stories, your reputation, it's causing a disruption that we can't just ignore." Cassandra narrowed her eyes. "So what's your plan? You want to keep me locked up while you figure out how to make this go away?" "I'm trying to help you," Tate said, finally sitting down across from her. "I'm trying to give you a way out of this without it escalating further. There's a way to get you out of here without making it look like we've got a systemic problem. So you want me to sit down, keep quiet, and let you sweep it under the rug?" "No," Tate said, leaning forward. "I'm giving you the chance to take control of the narrative. This arrest, these charges, they're a mess. I know it. But we're trying to contain the damage. If you cooperate, you walk free. We can move past this and find a way to—" "No," Cassandra interrupted, her voice rising. "You don't get to control this narrative. You don't get to decide how this ends. Not anymore." Tate's face twitched, but he didn't back down. He wasn't used to being challenged, not like this. "You're making a mistake." "No," she said, her voice icy. "The mistake was thinking you could bury me like you've buried everyone else. The mistake was thinking I wouldn't fight back." Tate stood up quickly, his chair scraping against the concrete. "You're stubborn, just like the reports say. Fine. If that's how you want to play it, I'll make sure you have your day in court. But I won't help you." Cassandra didn't even look up as he walked out, the door slamming shut behind him. Her hands were shaking, but it wasn't fear. It was the adrenaline rushing through her veins, the sense of defiance that had settled deep within her chest. She had just taken the first step. No more pleading, no more pretending. She wasn't going to wait for people like Tate to decide her fate. She was going to fight. The phone call came at 8:15 p.m. It was Malik. "I spoke with Raina Scott," he said, his voice tense. "She's willing to talk. She's already scheduled an interview with us tomorrow. We're going to bring her in as a witness." Cassandra's breath caught in her throat. "She'll do it? After everything?" "Yeah. She's been waiting for someone to pick this up again. She's ready to expose McLean and the whole department." Good, good. Cassandra could feel the tide shifting. What else? What's the next step? "We're pushing to get the body cam footage now. It's going to be a fight, but we're putting the pressure on." "We'll get it, Cass. It's just a matter of time." Cassandra let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "I'm not backing down. Not now. Not ever." "I know," Malik said. "And that's why we're going to win this." When she hung up, Cassandra stared at the door for a long moment. The weight of the fight ahead pressed on her, but she knew this was only the beginning. There was still so much more to uncover, so many people to stand up for. The city had just begun to react, but Cassandra had already made her choice. The next few days blurred together for Cassandra. Each one felt like she was spinning in place, each second dragging her deeper into a world where she no longer recognized the rules. She was no longer just a reporter, no longer just a mother trying to make the best life for her son. Now she was something different. A pawn in a dangerous game played by people who thought they had the upper hand. But Cassandra had never been one to stay in the shadows for long. She spent hours in the holding room, the same cold metal bench beneath her thoughts racing. She had always been calm under pressure, always had a way of seeing the truth through the chaos. But this time, the truth wasn't coming easy. Every path seemed to lead to a dead end, every attempt to get answers thwarted by the thick walls of bureaucracy and corruption. Still, she had no choice but to keep pushing forward, for Elijah, for the truth, for everything that had been stolen from her. Malik had been working tirelessly, calling in favors, speaking to witnesses, gathering whatever evidence he could. He had even tracked down Raina Scott, the journalist whose wrongful arrest 2 years ago had been covered up by the department. Raina had agreed to speak out, and that alone could shift the balance of power. Cassandra had hope again, a glimmer of light in the darkness. But hope alone wasn't enough. They needed hard evidence. They needed McLean's body cam footage, and without it, everything they were doing might be in vain. Cassandra's cell door opened with a sharp screech. She looked up to see Officer Daniels again, his face unreadable. He didn't speak as he stood in the doorway, just gestured for her to stand up. "It's time," he muttered, stepping aside. Cassandra followed him without a word, the familiar silence hanging heavy between them. She had seen him before in passing. He wasn't a bad cop, but he was part of a system that had broken her, that had broken too many others. The irony wasn't lost on her. The only one who had treated her with any decency had been the one who was still part of the machine. They moved through the hallways of the precinct, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the concrete walls. The officers in the area didn't even look up. Cassandra wondered if they'd already decided what her fate would be, or if they were just too tired to care. They reached the interview room and Officer Daniels opened the door, standing aside to let her in. Inside was Malik, his face a picture of grim determination. He didn't say anything when she walked in. He just gave her a brief, understanding look. "Close the door," Malik said to Daniels, his voice low but firm. The officer nodded and stepped back, shutting the door behind him. Malik didn't waste any time. "I've been in touch with Raina. She's confirmed that McLean was the officer who arrested her 2 years ago. Same pattern, same tactics. He was targeting people of color in her neighborhood, looking for any excuse to stop them." Cassandra nodded, absorbing the information. "This is good. This is exactly what we need, but it's not enough. We need the footage. We need that video." Malik's jaw tightened. "We're still fighting for it. They've been stalling, but we're not backing down." Good, Cassandra said, her voice growing firmer. We can't afford to. They've got the power, but we've got the truth. And the truth has a way of breaking things wide open. Malik looked at her, his eyes steady. The city's pushing hard to close this case, Cassandra. They're moving fast, and they're trying to bury everything before it becomes a full-blown scandal. That's exactly why we have to keep pushing. We can't give them an inch. I'm pushing, but they're coming for you. I've been hearing rumors that they might be looking to charge you with something worse. Attempted assault, resisting arrest. If they can make you look like a threat, they can justify everything they've done. Cassandra's breath caught in her throat. They won't get away with it. I know. That's why I'm here, to make sure they don't. Malik paused, then leaned forward. There's one more thing. Cassandra raised an eyebrow, her attention sharpening. What is it? The police chief, Ronald Tate. I'm not sure we can trust him. He came to see you, didn't he? Cassandra nodded. He did. He said he was trying to help, but I'm not buying it. That's what I thought. Malik leaned back, tapping his fingers on the table. Tate's been involved in covering up incidents like this before. He's done favors for McLean. And if this gets bigger, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts trying to bury it even further. Cassandra felt a cold knot in her stomach. So, he's not on our side? No, Malik said flatly. Tate's only looking out for himself. If this case blows up, he's going down with McLean. Cassandra's mind raced. This was it, the breaking point. Everything they had been fighting for, everything they had been working toward, could fall apart in an instant if they didn't stay ahead. They needed more than just Raina's testimony, more than just a sliver of hope that they could take down McLean. They needed someone inside, someone who could bring down the entire department. I've got an idea, Cassandra said suddenly. She met Malik's eyes, her voice steady. We need to get to Tate. He's hiding something. We need him to make a mistake. Malik was quiet for a moment, considering. You're right. If we get to him, we can shake everything loose. But we need leverage, something concrete. I'll figure something out, Cassandra said, already forming a plan in her head. But we need to move quickly. The longer we wait, the tighter their grip will get. Malik nodded. Agreed. We'll start working on it right away. I've got some people I can reach out to. We just need to stay a step ahead. Let's make sure we stay 2 steps ahead. Malik stood up, and Cassandra followed suit. She gave him a small, determined smile. Thanks, Malik. I won't forget this. You don't have to, he said, offering a brief nod. We're in this together. With that, he turned and left, leaving Cassandra standing alone in the cold room once again. But this time, she didn't feel so alone. There were cracks appearing, tiny fractures in the walls that had kept her trapped in the system for so long. She could feel the power shifting, even if it was just a little. Now, it was time to bring it all down. The door to the room opened again, but it wasn't Malik. This time it was someone else, someone unexpected. Chief Tate. Cassandra looked up, her expression unreadable. What do you want? He hesitated, his posture stiffer than before. I wanted to apologize. Her eyebrows rose. Apologize? Yes, I wasn't clear about my intentions before. You're right. I should have been more straightforward. This situation has gone too far, and I want to help make things right. Cassandra leaned back, her eyes narrowing. You want to help now? I do. And I know we've had our differences. But there's more going on here than you realize. McLean? He's not the only one. The department's dirty, Cassandra, and I need you to know I'm trying to fix it. I'm on your side. Cassandra stared at him for a long moment, the weight of his words sinking in slowly. Maybe he was telling the truth, maybe he wasn't. But Cassandra wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. I'll believe it when I see it, she said flatly. Tate didn't argue. He turned and left without another word. Cassandra stood in the room, her mind turning, a new sense of determination settling in. It wasn't over yet. The morning sunlight filtered through the narrow window of Cassandra's small apartment, casting long shadows on the walls. It had been weeks since she was released from the holding cell, but the weight of those days still lingered in her bones. The fight for justice had drained her in ways she hadn't expected. But now, the end was in sight. They were closer than ever to bringing McLean down, to exposing the corruption that had tainted the city for so long. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and Cassandra's heart skipped when she saw the name flashing across the screen, Malik Johnson. She swiped to answer it. "Malik?" "It's over," he said, his voice brimming with satisfaction. They folded. Cassandra's breath caught. "What do you mean? What happened?" "They gave up, Cass. We got everything we needed. Body cam footage, the radio transcripts. We even got a confession from McLean's partner." Cassandra's hands trembled as she gripped the phone tighter. "They're admitting it?" "Not exactly, but they're settling. The department's gonna pay a hefty settlement for the false arrest, and McLean's done. He's off the force. Publicly disgraced. His career's over." A rush of relief flooded Cassandra's chest, so powerful that it almost knocked the breath out of her. "We did it," she whispered, more to herself than to Malik. "Yeah, we did. You fought for this, you and your team. Now the whole city knows the truth. McLean's not walking away from this one." "I can't believe it," Cassandra said, her voice thick with emotion. After everything they did to me." Malik's tone softened. "It's over now, Cass. You don't have to carry it anymore." "I'm still carrying it," she replied quietly. "We all are. The truth doesn't fix everything." Camden said, "No, it doesn't, but it's a start." Cassandra stood in the quiet of her apartment, the weight of the moment sinking in. She thought of Elijah, his face when he saw her walking free. She thought of Sandra, the team of reporters who had stood by her, and the countless people who had come forward with their own stories of injustice, their own experiences with McLean and officers like him. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the whole city, the people who had been suffering in silence for far too long. "What's next?" she asked Malik, her voice steady, determined. "There's a lot of work to be done, but now we can start looking at reform. Holding the department accountable. This isn't just about McLean, it's about every single officer who thought they could get away with this." Cassandra nodded, a spark igniting in her chest. "I'm in, all the way." "I knew you would be," Malik said, a smile in his voice. "We'll take it from here. You've earned your rest. You've done more than most ever will." But even as he spoke, Cassandra knew that the fight wasn't really over. Not yet. This was just one battle won in a war that had been waged for years. She had fought to expose the truth, to bring a corrupt officer to justice, but there were others out there, hidden in the shadows, who still needed to be held accountable. She glanced at the framed picture of Elijah on her desk, his innocent smile a reminder of why she'd fought so hard. She had done this for him, for their future, and she wasn't going to stop now. "I'll take a break when the work's done," she said, a quiet determination in her words. "But for now, I'm not finished." Malik laughed softly. "I wouldn't expect anything less. Just remember, this fight is bigger than one officer or even one department. It's a system, and we're just getting started." Cassandra took a deep breath, letting the air fill her lungs. It had been a long, hard road, but she had made it. She had stood up, fought back, and refused to let anyone silence her. It wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about something bigger. It was about making sure no one else had to suffer the way she had. "And we'll finish it," she said firmly. Malik was quiet for a moment before responding. "We will. Together." With that, the call ended, and Cassandra stood in the center of her apartment, the weight of the moment finally starting to sink in. Her journey had been long, painful, and filled with moments where she had doubted herself. But now, standing here, the taste of victory was sweeter than she had ever imagined. The world outside was still turning, still full of challenges, but Cassandra had found something more valuable than any victory: peace. She knew there would be more battles, more obstacles, but this one was hers, and she had won it. Later that evening, she sat at her small kitchen table, the room filled with the soft hum of the city outside. Elijah was in bed, asleep, the weight of the day's chaos forgotten in the innocence of his dreams. The phone rang again, this time from Sandra. "Do you hear the news?" Sandra asked, before Cassandra could say anything. "I did. It's done," Cassandra replied, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I know you don't want to hear this, but you're a hero. The whole city's talking about you." "Not a hero," Cassandra said softly, her voice full of conviction. "Just someone who did what they had to do." "Same thing," Sandra replied, her tone light. "But either way, you're getting the recognition you deserve. You earned it." Cassandra's heart swelled. This wasn't about recognition. It was about the truth. And the truth had won. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. "You don't have to thank me. We did this together. And don't forget it." "I won't. Trust me." The line went quiet for a moment, the sound of Sandra's breath filling the space between them. "You okay?" Sandra asked softly. Cassandra exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I'm okay." "I'm glad to hear it," Sandra said, her voice filled with relief. "You've earned your peace, Cass. Now go get it." Cassandra smiled. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she was ready for it. She had fought the fight that needed to be fought, and she had come out stronger on the other side. She didn't need recognition. She didn't need accolades. All she needed was her son, her truth, and the knowledge that she had done what was right.